Welcome back to Bread and Butter, where we're serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement. And today we are live on Twitch, which is our second time, but first time. I am joined as everybody in the correct order. Pylet, how are you tonight?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We have not one, but two special guests. We have podcast favorite WorldEight. WorldEight, how are you tonight?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
And we have McBanterFace coming fresh off his 8-0 victory at the playoffs. How you doing today, Mr. Banterface?
Hey, I'm doing well. Can't complain. Good to be here.
So what have you been doing inside of Hearthstone lately now that you are, signed, sealed, and delivered?
Not a ton lately. I've kind of been, this has been like the period where I played the least Hearthstone recently. Taking more or less of a break, not like a full break, but I just haven't been playing a ton. Cast like a small tournament the other day. Been hanging out, doing some spectating, still trying to get some streams in, but it's not been my favorite period of Hearthstone to play, so I'm kind of taking it easy before the mini set drops, and then we'll be back to work.
Now, when you're not playing Hearthstone, is there other games you play for relaxation, or do you just kind of get away from the computer?
I used to more. These days, I don't really play a ton of other games. I'll play I'll play EAFC every now and then. I used to play way too much, but instead now I just watch more football or soccer, whatever you want to call it. I tend to watch that. I've been watching a reasonable amount of TV lately too, instead of playing games. That's been my new entertainment of choice.
Fantastic. How about yourself, WorldEight? What have you been up to?
So after the Masters Tour, there was a nerf to reserve spot, which killed my favorite deck. I was like, I'm gonna keep playing, and then I don't know. The deck was kind of like my rock, really. I was surprised. There's some decks that I enjoy, but I was a little burnt out after Masters Tour, disappointing, and I was like, you know what? Favorite deck got nerfed. I've got lots of life stuff coming up, so cooled my heels for a little bit. Then I was like, you know what? I can't help myself. I'm gonna cook, and then I started really trying to make Skyla Mage work. It doesn't work. Short version. It tanks my rank a bit, and then I was like, you know what? End of the month, I'm gonna try and self-correct. And then I went on, a tear with Beast Hunter yesterday because I think all the builds are bad. So I have my own build, and it's like 80% win rate or something like that. So I'm kind of in a comfortable spot where I'm a little bit happier with the rank at the end of the month. And yeah, we'll see how the mini set lands. Maybe a little bit outside of the world of Hearthstone, but how to kind of get a feel for things as to what the mini set cards are going to impact. Because I do another little podcast, Vicious Syndicate, and I had to do a long session with that today. But ready for the mini set. See, one or two cards in it that are pretty interesting for sure. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Trying to get my feet back into Hearthstone, Beast Hunter, Hand Buff, Death Knight. Just kind of chill decks where I don't have to put too much effort in.
I do like now how on the podcast Zach will be like, this is garbage. And you'd be like, well, it's not actually quite garbage. I kind of like it and I do well with it. So I like that you're just standing up for yourself and what you believe in on the show. It's been great. Pylet, what have you been playing?
Not a lot. I've also just not played a whole lot this week, mainly just because I haven't been home at all other than to sleep this past week. So I think I've played 9 total games of Standard, 3 of which were a THL match. Thankfully, there were 3 wins and not 3 losses like the week before. But most of what I've been playing is the Nebula Shaman. That's been kind of the most interesting deck that I've been able to find and play and enjoy, and been able to kind of take some different lines based on the matchups and play around with that. I know Fire Rogue is kind of up there also, but Nebula Shaman is what drew my attention this week.
Fantastic. And I hit Legend late last week, I think, and not exactly pushing for any kind of high ranking finish. Not that I ever do, but not about middle of the pack as usual. And I just got a little inspired to try a couple different things. So I tried the Insidious Hunter that Gifko was talking about last week, and that actually is surprisingly not bad and a lot of fun. And that brought me to try to make Asteroid Shaman work again. And that was a lot of fun. But I also was walking today, and I really, really hate Protoss Priest. So I was thinking maybe there is a non-imbue, non-Protoss kind of way to make the Resuscitate card work. So I was trying to do some stuff with some taunts and death rattles, and I kind of made a bomb priest with the bomb dude that puts a bomb at the end of your every turn, puts bomb, and you bring it back and you protect it with taunts. And mixed results, but I was playing around like 45%. So, maybe there's some potential there with a little bit of refinement. It's going to be garbage. It'll whatever, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes up with the mini set. But Ms. Banterface, what have you been doing outside of Hearthstone?
Nothing too interesting. I don't know. It's same old for me. Been spending a lot of time with my dog. Spending time with family, playing some pickleball. I picked that up like maybe a little under a year ago, and so try to play a couple times a week with my friends and get a little bit of exercise away from sitting on the computer. But nothing too interesting for me.
Well, we have to ask, since you mentioned it, dog name and breed.
Her name's Mochi. She's a Boston Terrier. I haven't really posted her much on like Twitter, but I have a channel in my Discord for pet pictures where I'll try to keep people updated. I adopted her a year and like 3 months ago. So I've had her for a bit. She's been growing up. She's still pretty young, a little under 2 years old. So she goes a little crazy sometimes, but she definitely keeps me entertained.
Fantastic. How about yourself, Mr. 8? What have you been doing outside of the game?
Well, we just got back from Disney World, the family and I, and the family loved it. My wallet didn't. we were there for we stayed for 5 days. We did 4 parks, and then we did a day at the pool. Just because my wife got really like into it, so she did all the rope drops and the lightning lanes, and then we signed up for a service that would keep finding you more like lightning lanes as you were like riding the rides. So it was back-to-back rides. Like, we didn't wait for longer than like 15 minutes for a ride. It was like a really slow week at Disney World. A lot of kids went back to school last week. Our kids are not in school until after Labor Day, so it was a really slow week, and we did a lot. We were in the parks like 12 hours a day or something crazy like that. So we were kind of burnt out from that, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, if you're paying all that money, go hard, I guess. So just glad to be home and taking a break for a bit. But school starts this week, and so that's a little stressful, but it should be fine. I'm, as a parent, looking forward to it. It'll be nice for someone else to be in charge of the boys for a little bit.
I mean, I actually got married at Disney World, and my wife likes to go there plenty of times, so we go there quite often. And the magic of Disney is the money magically disappears out of your wallet. So yes. I completely understand that. Pylet, what have you been up to in the world outside of Hearthstone?
I feel like it's tagging on with WorldEight's stuff, but on the other side of being the teacher. And, we just finished our first full week of school. So getting back into the swing of things, getting all the bands and groups going again. We started our recruitment for our 5th graders. So that's going really well. Had a really smooth start to the school year overall. So hopefully continues that way, but definitely enjoyed the long weekend and being able to rest a little bit, mainly tomorrow when I don't have anything to wake up for. And then also, speaking of Disney, it was the pre-release weekend for the new Lorcana set for Fabled that I've been looking forward to. They have a rotation, which helps me get caught up because they're rotating out the first year of cards, and I didn't play the first year. So I'll kind of get caught up a little bit, but played in a pre-release event for that on Saturday. Ended up, we did a pack rush where you get 2 packs, you open them, that's your deck, and then the little promotional cards are become some of your your mana resources, the ink in that game. I placed second. I probably should have won. I played really well because my deck was not very good compared to the other person in first, and then I majorly misplayed on the last couple turns and forgot that I had a card in my Discord card I could have brought back to win the game until about 30 seconds after I made my play. So got second, still got a trove out of it, which had 8 packs, and then I had the couple of boxes that I pre-ordered as well. Didn't get much for good pulls. I haven't seen much to see what the pull rate is, but my openings were definitely kind of mid, other than one pack. I need to see where the value is at. It looks like it's the highest legendary, and I got it in foil, so I might flip that pretty quickly because I think that card's going to tank in value pretty quickly. I don't think it's as good as what people think it is. But excited to see where the new stuff lands and the new meta lands, especially because what I was playing kept most of its pieces with rotation since I didn't have the old cards anyways.
Fair enough. And for me, same as WorldEight. My kid goes back to school the day after Labor Day, so as I've been working in Rhode Island, coming back to New Hampshire, it's been kind of a pain. But I took last weekend, I took a long weekend, and this weekend I took a long weekend. So I took off Friday, came back early Thursday, and it's been nothing exciting, just relatively chill. And my son got a Switch too, so we were playing that. I'm waiting for Pylet to mail me Donkey Kong Country so we can play that. But outside of that, just doing stuff around the house, getting some stuff done, and just kind of decompressing, working. I'll have 3 short weeks in a row, a 3-day week, a 4-day week, and a 4-day week. So that's kind of nice, even though I like what I do. I really like my job, but it's still nice to take a break and kind of, refresh and all that. But no one wants to hear about that right now. I think everyone wants to hear about the Masters Tour playoffs. So, McBanterFace, what does your prep look like going into a tournament like this?
It can differ a bit, I guess. I mean, the playoff system is kind of a bit different from like most of the tournaments I've prepped for in the past. It's well, at least like recently, like compared to the regular master tours with 16 people, it's a much bigger field. So there's kind of like a lot more possibilities, I guess, in terms of decks. There's not really much thinking about like certain people's like potential lineups or like who's going to be in your group, because it's just a big field. So in general, it's kind of just been, figure out what the best decks are overall, make sure I'm, reasonably competent on them. Usually I tend to be playing them for a while before because I tend to play whatever the best decks are at any given meta, but sometimes just need to, prep a little bit more on certain decks. Whereas like for smaller tournaments, it might be a bit different where I might have, like a target strategy more in mind. For me, usually I tend to be kind of a best decks type of tournament player. So it wasn't really too much different for me. Just figure out what's good, play it, and that's about it.
Now, is the prep different when you have maybe a tournament where you already have like a set 32 or 16 versus when you're going to have to do a Swiss kind of setup?
I think for a lot of people it might be like quite a bit different. For me, it's not massively different. There are like some small differences at times, and sometimes that's more about like practice group, like certain people you can prep with or not prep with. For this, I just prep with other people in my region because it's like you're not really worried about playing against somebody in particular, whereas in a group of like 16, especially if you know your groups ahead of time, which we usually know like a week or two ahead of time, then you might not be able to prep with like a certain person if you're in their group, because that gets a little bit weird. But for this, it's kind of a bit more open. So I think there's less like restrictions on what you can prep for and all that.
WorldEight, this was your first foray into this kind of a tournament. How was your prep? What did you do?
So this was interesting, right? I've played a whole bunch of THL, but honestly haven't played Conquest in a while. Like I kind of fell into a routine playing the Hero format, which is like King of the Hill kind of thing, where you kind of identify like what's my best deck and then what are the counters to this deck, right? Like that's one of the stronger strategies. And as long as your best deck doesn't get banned, you can do well. And I rode that to a a very good record last THL season, and otherwise, like I've just played like wild in THL, right? Which is just like whatever. So for this tournament, I barely squeaked in, right? Like you needed 2 points on NA. I got the 2 points because I was really good at one particular deck, the Hand Buff Hunter. And going into this tournament, I felt very outclassed. THL is really nice, but you do get like people from all over ladder, which is great. Going into this though, I'm not typically a top 100 player, more like a top 200 player, top 500 player, right? Like, and I'm playing against the top 50, right? So going into this tournament, I said, well, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? How can I approach this tournament with an edge? Because if I do the McBanter approach, I don't win, right? If I bring the best decks, I'm going to get outplayed by the other people playing the best decks unless I have a lot of luck. Because I just don't, I like to think I've got a good set of skills in this game, but I know I'm not the best, right? And so what do you do when you're in that situation? And my strengths are, I felt like I had a few strengths. One of them is that I was really good at one deck, right? I was really good at Hand Buff Hunter. It got me in the tournament. So I started there. And I was like, okay, I'm going to ride this deck as much as I can and build my lineup around it. And so my second thing was, and maybe kind of a bit of a combo here, is I was like, I'm going to check my ego at the door, right? I'm not going to, it's kind of going back to the first point, is I will play any deck as long as it meets the lineup that I need. So I'm going to look at the numbers and I'm going to say, okay, if this is the right deck for me, I don't care if, what people think of me or think of the card choices I make. What am I going to bring to the tournament? And I also think my other advantage is I tend to think of myself as somewhat creative in this game. Deck choices, sometimes card choices. What else can I bring to the table? And so that's how I ended up with a list that basically said, if I ban Death Knight or whatever the greediest control deck my opponent brings, what does that lineup look like? And it kind of fell into place of just this very aggressive lineup that did well into what I thought the field would bring, which is mostly Rogue. Almost everybody brought Rogue. And then a lot of like spell damage Druid. The lineup was very good into those two decks. And then it was pretty reasonable into all the other decks. And so I felt like my lineup was really good going into the tournament. And it got me to day 2, where I eventually ran into the nemesis I was fearing, which is someone with, 4 pretty greedy decks, where the rogue deck even had 2 blobs of tar in it. I was like, what? How did we get here? And so I kind of got foiled at the end there. But going into the tournament is I knew that I was at a disadvantage. I had to find my advantage, and I wrote it. And I was very happy with the result at the end of the day, because I really didn't think I was going to make day 2. But I did, and I was very happy with that.
You made a really interesting choice with a couple, I believe at least one of your decks, if not 2, where you threw in Customs Enforcer as a tech card against Rogue. And that seemed to do really, really well for you, because you even balanced it with some draw, the pirate draw with a weapon. I forget the name of the card, and that worked out really well. So how did you come to that before the tournament?
So that's coming from just kind of like a history of knowing cards and knowing when their roles would be. And I was trying to solve, it came from kind of trying to solve a certain problem, which is I really wanted to bring aggro Demon Hunter. And I'm like, why the heck does this lose against Druid? And I had played enough games to realize that it loses against Druid because of Chalice. Not the first Chalice. It's when they pump up the spell damage and they go 1, 2, 3, pew, 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 and then all of a sudden your whole board's gone. You can't avoid the swipes. But I was like, you know what? We're already trying to run this small menagerie package. This is a pirate. It's It's got a big butt. This seems reasonable. And then I was like, oh, I can add this into my other deck. So then I ended up bringing Aggro Paladin because I had really strong matchups into those other popular decks. And I was like, well, this is just an additional kicker. And then I've always been a big fan of Raiding Party in Rogue, mostly because I liked the Pirate Rogue, and it was kind of a good draw engine in that. And then I was like, oh, well, I always want Sandbox Scoundrel, and this is a really good tech card for the mirror. So yeah, I ended up bringing 6 Customs Enforcers, and they kind of hard carried me through day one. And I almost came up with it by accident. If we don't look at NA though, specifically I think it was in Asia, another player had come up with almost the same idea. They brought almost the same lineup as I did with all these Customs Enforcers. We didn't collaborate at all on this, but they had the same thought process. So I was like, oh, I'm not the only one with this idea, but it was a good idea nonetheless.
So McBanter, how do you make decisions on your targets and bans, and how surprised were you to see something like a Customs Enforcer when you played WorldEight?
Yeah, I mean, normally when I'm kind of building my lineup for a tournament, there tends to be like a couple standout decks, more often than not. For this one, it was mostly Rogue and Druid. Those are like the 2 decks this time where I was like, okay, these look like the best decks. I expect a lot of this. And usually when that happens, like either you can try to target one of them, right? That's one approach. I have done like a couple lineups with target strategies in the past. Usually I don't tend to. I tend to just bring the best decks and come up with some coherent strategy for it, which usually means I'm just banning one of those 2 decks. One of this deck is stronger than, everything else or almost everything else. I'm going to ban this. And then usually your lineup kind of falls into place after that. So I tend to have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to ban early on or what I expect to ban. Sometimes my lineup will change a bit and then I'll have to, reconsider if something else makes sense for a ban. Sometimes there's certain lineups where you have to change your ban because you think you need to get like a certain deck through if they're targeting it. But more often than not, I tend to ban whatever one of the best decks is and then just build my lineup around that.
Was there anything that really surprised you how well it either overperformed or underperformed during the tournament?
I think it was, at least for like the Americas regions, pretty much about what I had expected. I mean, I think the lineup that I brought, at least on paper, was probably like the best lineup in terms of just like deck strength. I looked at the stats after the tournament, and I think it was actually like the 4 highest win rate decks, or like at least with the ban adjustment in. I think the 4 highest win rate decks, which was Nebula Shaman, Druid, Rogue, was my 4th deck. It's been a bit.
Was it Warlock?
Warlock, yeah, I think Quest Warlock, yeah, that was the other one. I guess for me personally, I mean, I didn't play a ton of games, obviously, but throughout my sets, a deck that I never lost with was actually Shaman, which I guess that was probably the most surprising thing. Like, I felt pretty good about Shaman going into the tournament, at least as far as, this is the best 4th deck or 3rd deck I can come up with. That's probably the biggest struggle with building a tournament lineup historically, is usually finding the first deck or 2 is like piece of cake. 3rd deck gets a little weird, and then the 4th deck is like there's nothing good. This is a pretty consistent problem for me and a lot of people, where it's like, how do you find a 4th deck that isn't going to lose every game in a series? At times it has not worked out. I brought some pretty bad 4th decks in the past, but this one I was really surprised with. It did really well. I didn't lose a game on it. It got banned, I think, like 3 times. So that was probably a pleasant surprise for me.
WorldEight, this was your first tournament like this of this kind of stature, and you touched on this a little bit in the earlier segment, but what was the experience like for you overall?
I actually kept my cool for most of it. One of the biggest challenges was telling my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to be around on Saturday. I'm not sure how long that's going to be, because I was like, maybe I'll go to drop. And like, then I kept winning, which is a great problem to have. And then I was like, oh, well, I can't put the kid down for nap time. Oh, I can't help cook dinner. But going into it, I'd played so much THL. that I was very comfortable, and I've seen, even though I don't consistently finish at the ranks that these other players do, I have run into them on ladder, right? I've played a few games with at least most of these players. Maybe actually Banter was the one exception. I don't think I've played too much of you on ladder. But like the whole field, right? Like there were mostly names I did recognize. So I felt pretty comfortable going into it. It wasn't until really Sunday that I started to get pretty nervous about it. And I think a lot of it was because we were playing, we waited like 3 hours for Banter to finish his first match. Maybe not 3 hours, but like, TJ kept being like, you guys are almost up. You guys are almost up. And it's like being in the room, right? Like the call room or whatever it is, right before you're supposed to go on stage. And the longer that is, the more like the anxiety started to set in more. But fortunately for me on Sunday, my first opponent, I had beat in the Swiss fairly handily. And that ended up being the same result on the Sunday. So even though I felt outclassed skill-wise, I still felt very comfortable going in because I felt like my lineup was very good. Like the first player I played against, Pizza, very great player. I looked at his lineup. I'm like, okay, I beat this lineup, right? And I was very happy, and that's what happened. So that gave me a lot of confidence. And as the day went on, the confidence continued. And even though, I lost a match, I dropped the match to Banter round 5 or something like that. Like it's still like I still had momentum for most of the day, which felt great.
So clearly, McBanterFace makes his games go long just to get in the heads of the people that are waiting to play next. Very smart. So, WorldEight, what did you learn from your experience this besides to make sure that you pre-order from your wife's favorite restaurant on that day?
I think what I learned is that I can compete. I had imposter syndrome, and that kind of goes away the first time you make day 2. Probably is I learned that maybe I should try for this again. Not likely to happen again, but at least give it a good try. Because when I buckle down and I stop playing all these meme decks, I could, I can place. So try again, I suppose.
And you could probably place with the meme decks if you try hard enough, maybe. McBanter, you've been doing you've played a lot of esports over the years in Hearthstone. How does the system we have now compare to what you've done before? Do you like things about the system, and do you not like things about this system? Where are you with how Hearthstone esports is now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit different from the one we had like in the last few years. Obviously, with the whole playoff system. My general take on it has been that I think it's better for the game in general. Like that, it's going to be better for 99% of people who are trying to compete in some way, or even if they're not even trying to compete. Sometimes maybe people qualify like without even really attempting to. They just get pretty good ladder finishes. Obviously, for America's region, it's a lower bar to qualify for playoffs. So some people might kind of like accidentally make it and be like, hey, I might as well give it a shot. Which I think is cool. For me personally, it's a worse system in terms of basically the amount of direct like ladder qualification spots got cut from 4 to 2 for region, which makes it a little harder for me to want to invest the time. And then even when I do, like this last season, I put in a lot of time to trying to qualify through ladder. Historically, when I've done that, I've been able to qualify for the tournament. And this time I just couldn't. I put in a good amount of hours, but wasn't quite able to get the finishes that I needed, which ended up being like 2 top 5 sort of qualified. But I didn't end up getting it. So it's a little harder for me in general, but I think the system is going in the right direction in terms of like the health of esports as a whole.
Now, there's been a lot of chatter about the state of the game in the meta lately. If you're involved in social media at all, you've heard people complaining about how things are underpowered, how we're still playing starships and whatnot. How is that affecting your tourney prep? And has it felt better or worse than it has in the past?
I mean, I try to not let that stuff affect, prep. I mean, again, for this one, I maybe prepared a little less seriously for this than I would have for like the actual Master Tour, for example, just because, the reward for doing well is a little bit different and smaller field. Like for me, even if I feel good going into playoffs, I don't really think there's a super high chance that I'm going to finish in the top two, because it's just that there's a lot of sets and, a lot can go wrong. You can end up bringing a bad third or fourth deck or something. But as far as like the actual Master Tour, which I'm about to start preparing for, I try to not let it affect me. I might be playing the game a little less is probably the biggest, hurdle for me. Like right now, I just haven't been playing much, but the goal is hopefully there's some new stuff from the mini set. And we'll talk about that in a bit maybe, but hopefully there's some playable stuff, and then, go back to work and put in the hours on that. So try to not, actually let it negatively affect my prep.
What was your favorite tournament meta?
Probably 2021 Worlds. That might be a hot take, because obviously that was probably one of the most like, controversial meta games. This is Stormwind era. I loved Garrote Rogue. That was a deck that I really enjoyed. Lifesteal DH. I think there was very much like a love it or hate it type of meta, where some people, stop playing the game. They don't want to watch. There was plenty of comments, and like the YouTube videos are like, oh, this meta sucks, all that. That's going to happen. For me personally, I really enjoyed it. That was when I was probably the most into the game, and it also did coincide with my first like huge tournament. It was the first time I played in Worlds, so I think I had a lot of I just had a lot of reasons to feel invested. So I think that kind of helped me, get more interested in the game.
You guys all heard it. Stormwind meta was awesome. You're all wrong. McBanterFace said it, so just keep that in mind. So I have a personal question, because I didn't really like this as a Hearthstone viewer. Do you think there should have been a winner of these tournaments? Because I know the top two each got in, and then I was like, oh, I can't wait to see the finals. And like Tyler's like, there's no finals, and I felt kind of cheated. And I also feel like you guys get kind of cheated, because outside of just maybe getting into the tournament, there should have been a little something on the end there. So what are your thoughts? Should there have been a winner? WorldEight, why don't you start us off?
I think as a viewer, you want to see that, but man, it was a long day for them to cast, and I was really appreciative that I got a chance to even be on the stream. Right, they were almost going to cut my match. Like this other match is going so long, we need to push it along. So I'm grateful that there wasn't a final match. If it was like a if that would have squeezed the timeline too much that they couldn't cast every match, I thought it was really awesome that they could. I do understand the frustration, but this does lead to the bigger tournament, right? This was still just a feeder tournament. So that they even had any casting at all, was a big push for them. And I don't really see what the incentive would be to have a first place. So, yeah, I understand the frustration, but I was very happy with just having the top two at that point.
I think motivation is they could have guys given you a little money on top of everything else or something. But what do you think, McBanter? Should they have had the finals? Should you have that final game to finish things off, even though both people qualified?
No. So pretty much exactly what WorldEight said. Like by that point, we're basically done. I definitely get it from like the viewer perspective. It does feel kind of weird to like have a tournament without a winner, but basically just the way that it's set up, similar to how in the Master Tour, it's going to be top four. That's basically who wins. Like if anything, I actually feel like it gets a little boring to me, where like the last Master Tour at CAS, and then also for the entire last year, where they've had the system where it's like top 2 or top 4 qualify to Worlds. That's the real prize. So once those games happen, and we get into like the top 2 or the finals, we're like, oh, who cares? Like, there's just not really much, on the line for it. There's like a little extra prize money, which of course is great. So, and the bragging rights and all that. But what really matters, like for those tournaments, is the world spot, and for this was the qualifying spot. So I think, also like WorldEight was saying, making sure that we have time for the more important matches, which are, the top 8 matches and top 4, I think is better. So there's some sacrifices I think have to be made for such a long stretch. I think the stream was like 18 hours for all 3 regions. So I definitely see the point of view where it's like, oh, I wish we had a winner, but I think overall it makes more sense to do it this way and try to get, more people on stream and more games in.
How do you think your buddy Pocket did casting? I don't know if you went back and watched any of it.
Yeah. I tried to watch a bit of it. Obviously, when I was actually that day, I wasn't really able to watch much, which was kind of a shame. But I tried to watch a little bit after. He did pretty well. I made fun of him for a couple of the games that he cast of mine, where I was setting up lethal for a turn. He had no idea, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, this game's gonna go a little long." Oh, and he's dead. And so I like to make fun of him for that stuff. But casting is hard. I mean, I like to do it myself. It's a lot of stuff to keep track of. It's really easy to miss stuff. So yeah, I think he did a good job.
Yeah, I've done some casting too with some little mini tournaments we've done, and it is not easy. It is a lot harder than people think it would be. Like, oh, I can just talk about Hearthstone. How hard is it? It is hard. It is a lot of work. So just to wrap this Masters Tour section up before we move on to the mini set, one easy question for you, McBanterFace. What do you have that makes you so much better than everybody else?
It's an interesting way of phrasing that. I don't know. I mean, I've been competing for a long time. I think a lot of it is probably just experience. Like compared to the rest of the field for this tournament, for example, for playoffs, I probably have the most tournament experience out of anyone that was playing. There are some other people that had already directly qualified, like Gamer RVG had me beat on that. But I mean, we've been practicing together for every tournament for 5 years. So I think just having been there and having done it so many times before definitely helps. It's kind of, you get into the routine of, prepping, and also the pressure of playing some of the higher stake matches, like in top 8 and top 4. I'm a bit more used to it. And I mean, even still, like to this day, I still feel those nerves a bit. So I can imagine, like for somebody who's doing it for the first time, it gets pretty stressful. So I think it's a nice advantage to have, done it so many times before.
Well said. Pylet, do we have any news this week?
We do. And to kind of wrap up the playoff section, I'm glad that both of you are on my side with the argument with Tito, because he would, as soon as he saw that there's no finals, he's messaging me. It's just like, what is this? Why are there no finals? I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, change the title to play in, and nobody complains. But playoff, you're expecting someone to win. So, anyways, we do have the mini set coming up that we've alluded to. We have the Day of Rebirth mini set. For the set is coming out on Tuesday, September 2nd. We do have all the cards, so we will go through those here today. Starting with Death Knight, I believe. There we go. With first live stream, waiting for making sure we're all on the same page here. So we have 3 cards here for Death Knight. We have a 5-mana 5/4 Undead Beast, Hollow Direthorn. Rush. After a friendly minion dies, spend 3 corpses to gain Reborn. Story of Umbra, which kind of tags on with the stories that we were getting in the main set. Discover a Death Rattle minion that costs 5 or more, summon it, and trigger its Death Rattle. That's a 7-mana spell. They also have a 1-mana shadow spell, Soul Rest Ceremony. Give your minions +1 attack and rush. They die at the end of your turn.
So really, we're probably just going to touch on each of the cards, but just in general, what are your guys' thoughts on if these cards are good, if they're going to affect any of the current decks, if they're going to be, and maybe start something new that we haven't played before? Like, I see Story of Umbra, and I'm curious if that's going to be in the Heron Death Knight that's been playing, because I know they smash things together, but maybe you can do a little bit more with Death Rattles there. McBanterFace, what do you think of the Death Knight set here?
Don't love it. I think for the current Death Knight decks that exist, which is mostly Starship Death Knight, but also even just like a regular control Death Knight, I think it's going to be tough for these cards to, justify getting included. There's always the caveat with card reveals that, like, it's easy to be wrong about this stuff. Sometimes things pop up, people create, some weird decks where they fit things in, but I think these might have a tough time, finding a place early on.
We always get the Trump SC, what do you call it, the file, like the worst card ever or something like that. I forget, something like that. And it ended up being like the best card. WorldEight, what are you thinking of these? You're brewing some Death Knight here?
Hard to brew with these. I'm a little more optimistic, or try to see it a little bit more than other people. It's hard for me to see immediate impact here, because I look at like Story of Umbra, and I'm like, this is a lot of value. Like, this is the pool's pretty poor right now, but it's 3 things for 7 mana. It's maybe okay. But like something that just strikes me as a little too expensive, and I'm gonna probably say this a whole bunch on this podcast, is this 1 mana too expensive? Because I definitely feel that way about the Direhorn. I would have loved to have seen this being like a 4 mana 4/4. Like, I would have been like, yeah, this is great. Because some people are making a comparison to like Rambunctious Stuffy, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's not stuffy, but it can go in like an unholy deck, right? Like, that doesn't have that ability, and it's a lot of rush. And I feel like they're generally moving away from rush. Just like as the sets are being printed, rush seems to be like a premier keyword for them. So this could potentially have 10, 15 rush easily. And for a deck that may not be able to clear the board, like I was saying, like some kind of like tokeny, aggressive deck that's generated a whole bunch of corpses, just needs to like punch through taunts. Like, I could see it, kind of be like the, bull in the China shop, like clearing things out. But again, it's like just a tiny bit too expensive. So I don't see it going in anything immediately. The ceremony is kind of interesting. Like, this is one of those like big picture cards where it's like, do I want to trigger Death Rattle on my whole board for 1 mana? I'm not seeing it right now. Maybe it's decent with some big cards actually. Like, I have this big card that needs an effect, like I don't know, like I think it's supposed to be for like the quest reward, right? Like, so that you can have an immediate impact, and then the thing dies, and then you've got your location. I don't know. I don't really. None of these cards seem to me like they're gonna see immediate play, but I do see kind of like the idea here. Again, I just wish there was like a mana nudge on the Direhorn. That's my biggest complaint here.
Yeah, I was looking at Soul Rest and I was thinking maybe this will give the opportunity for somebody to play the Quest Death Knight, but I still don't think it's going to be good. I don't know why that doesn't have some keyword on it. Anything, taunt, reborn, anything to make it a little more interesting. But maybe you compare it with the Soul Rest ceremony. Pylet, got any thoughts before we move on to Death Knight, Demon Hunter?
Yeah, Soul Rest is the one that I was drawn to kind of first, to where it's kind of awkward because it have to be some sort of 2-card combo or a death rattle situation, but similar to like a crop rotation, or we had when Death Knight first came out, we were playing Army of the Dead for 5 2/2 rushes. If that becomes valuable in Death Knight again, that probably goes in that type of deck. It just is a lot more awkward when it's a 2-card thing that you're having to do, but we're already doing Wild Pyro and Poison as a 2-card combo, so possibly. I definitely looked at Dire Thorn similar to Stuffy, to where it's a little bit awkward right now. I don't think it fits, but it's something to where you can keep it. It's going to be there as an option later on, because Stuffy wasn't played for 6-7 months really until it kind of popped up in that Double Frost deck.
And maybe we'll have some kind of Death Knight egg deck with the neutral cards, which we'll get to in a little bit. All right. Let's move on to, bear with me, I'm still getting the system. Demon Hunter, there we go. WorldEight, what are your thoughts on the Demon Hunter set here? We have Diabolus Rex, which is a 6-mana 6/5 Kindred, deals 6 damage to your opponent's left and rightmost minions. You get the Skitterish Saucier, which is a 3-mana 4/2 battlecry, reduce cost of your adjacent cards in your hand by 1. And then the Horn of Feasting, which is a 4-mana summon 3/2/1 Raptors with Rush. Outcast, give them immune while attacking this turn.
I just don't understand what Demon Hunter's supposed to be doing this set. Like, we had like the Infestation bug zappers in the main expansion, and then like a whole bunch of wasps, I guess. And now we're like, we're cooking. We're like literally cooking. I don't know. Illidan is on some kind of weird trip here. But I don't really see a lot of I'm usually pretty optimistic. I don't see a lot of potential here. The Rex is very easy to play around. It's a lot of requirements. I don't see this seeing play at all. The Saucier also just really hard to set up. Like, the best case scenario in my mind is some kind of like big Demon Hunter thing. But by the time we set this all up, we might as well be playing Umpire's Grasp, and that card doesn't see play. And the Horn of Feasting is another card where I'm like, this should have been 3 mana. There's 3 Raptors. Let it just be 3 mana. I don't think it's too busted. But again, I think that's, I had said it before, is like, I think there's now a premium on Rush, right? This got nudged up because of the premium on Rush, and it's so hard to play a 4 mana Outcast card. I just don't see these cards seeing play as optimistic as I like to be at these card reveals.
2 questions real quick before we move on to McBanterFace. Do you think Horn of Feasting helps the quest? And if there's only 1 minion on board, does Rex hit both?
I think I don't know about Rex. I don't think we'll know the answer.
It should, because
I'm a read up player.
I think Lookout worked that way. We had the pirate demon that did 2 damage to the left and most. I'm pretty sure if there's one, it hit both, or it hit twice.
Yeah, I guess I could say, like, 12 damage to 1 target. Horn of Feasting is supposed to be for the quest deck, but right now, like, you always got to think of the curve. Right, so the curve would be double Tusk Piercer into Ball Hug, right? Like, that's what you want to do. You want to do that every game, get your Ball Hug down, especially with the quest chain. So, like, when are you playing Horn of Feasting? I guess later on, but then you want to be doing stuff like Nomelia or like the buffed Rush. Like, there's not really a reason to run it. Plus, you've got also Infestation, which is already kind of like 4 mana. It is quest support, but I think it's pretty weak.
McBanterFace, what are your thoughts on the Demon Hunter set?
Yeah, same thing. Not for me. I struggle to see these doing much early on. Like, this is very much like maybe in the future, maybe with some buffs, but right now, hard to see these finding a place.
So it sounds like we're not pulling Draco Cat out of retirement quite yet. Pylet, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Horn of Feasting definitely feels like it should have been 3. That's on par, and then let the Outcast be a bonus. In a vacuum, I like the other 2 cards, but I agree, I don't see where they go quite yet. Saucier, I think, is the one that has the most potential, just because anytime something reduces the cost of something else, it's going to find a home at some place. I just don't know if we're trying to target specific discounts, or if we're just putting this in something that's looking to curve out, and now we're saving 2 mana later on for a slightly underwhelming body for turn 3, but it lets us do more stuff later on.
And I think Diabolus Rex it's got the whole Kindred requirement, which I think that probably should have brought it down maybe a mana, because you have now have to set it up with something before it and all that. So I don't know. I don't understand what's going on here, and I'm not going to try at the moment. Let's go ahead and move on to the next set, which is Druid. McBanterFace, how you liking Druid? We have a Panther Mask. So mask cards are kind of a theme through a few different sets, a few different of classes. It's a 4 mana Panther's Mask. Set a minion stats to 5/4 and give it stealth. Draw 2 cards. Doesn't say friendly minion, just says minion. You got a 9-mana 9/9 Seismopod, which is taunt, elusive, death rattle. Give all your minions your hand and deck +3/+3, and then you get the long neck egg, which is a 2-mana 0/2 death rattle, summoning a 1/2 beast. Give your minions +1/+1. Is this Drew going to bring Druid back?
I like it more than the other cards we've looked at. I think for me, like the mask, I think is a pretty solid card. Again, I don't know if there's a specific deck for it yet, but I think it's possible that it will see some play. And then the egg is kind of more of a, go wide quest druid, maybe without the quest type of thing is what I'm thinking. I'm more of the opinion that if quest druid ever becomes a thing, it's probably better to just play token druid and not play a 1 mana -1 card, wait 5 turns to do anything. So I think it's possible that maybe some sort of token druid could use that. But at least out of the decks we have right now, there's not like a natural fit. So we'll have to come up with something to make those work. Seismopod, I'm not too sure about, but I like them better than the other classes so far.
WorldEight, you are a token druid enjoyer. How are you liking the set?
I think Mask is a slam dunk. There's so much you can do with that. Seismopod, I think, is just like a snooze, even if you ramp into it. The problem is it's like tied to a death rattle. So, and it doesn't even buff minions on board. So I don't know. I don't really see that card seeing play, but I like the egg a lot too. Some people are like, oh, it's like Power of the Wild, why don't I just run that? And it's like, well, anytime you can combine the two, that's really good. Back when we had Token Druid that was actually doing things, we'd always try to like either split with like Jerry Rig Carpenter, like so you could get both effects, or I forget there was like some kind of 3-cost minion that would like do the other side of the choose one. Like you're always trying to like do both, and the egg does both. Panther Mask does so much though. Like it takes a small minion, makes it significant. It draws 2 cards. It gives something stealth. If you're playing Dreambound Raptor for some reason and you roll like a good keyword, Wind Fury, obviously pretty nutty, but even something like Divine Shield or Lifesteal, really good. The other thing that I'm thinking with Mask is you can run a is it Haywire? The one that double stats,
yep.
Right? You run that, and you run the Mask, and you can use ticking to discount it to 0 in like some kind of tokeny deck. And then you slap this on it, and then you just wait 3 turns, and then they're dead. Right? Like it's the old like poison Zill, like you're just waiting for that doubling to kill them, and it's stealth. It's not like stealth until next turn. It's a permanent stealth. Which could be relevant for other cards too. So I really like the Mask quite a lot. And the egg I'm pretty optimistic about.
How about yourself, Pylet? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. Seismopod would make more sense if we didn't nuke low earlier this set, but with no low, then I don't see that seeing play at all anytime soon. I like the egg for a token deck, and yeah, the Mask seems nuts. I really like the flavor of the Mask kind of cycle of cards as well. So Mask is probably the one that slots in, especially since it's set a minion and not the transform. I know that there's a couple other Mask cards that I think we'd rather it be a transform effect, maybe. But I think that in this case, it's definitely more beneficial.
Yeah, we just need to bring back Seismopod. Will find its home in whatever that 9-mana 3/3 that I always get off of starships whenever I don't want it to be.
Dungar.
I forget the name of the Dungar. Yeah, we'll just bring Dungar back because everything old is new again, right? But yeah, these look fun. Long neck looks good. Panther Mask. Panther Mask not only is good, like WorldEight was saying, for things like that, but it also could probably you can use it on an opponent's minion if you need to like reduce whatever you have and whatnot. So I think there's a lot of potential there for it to be kind of a flex card. Not that you want to have a 5/4 stealth for your opponent, but it's better than a 17/13 starship or something. So
yeah, and stealth minions lose taunt, right? If you need to punch through a taunt.
That is a very, very good point.
You also immediately draw 2 cards. We totally skipped over that part of that card. It's not the most important part, but it's definitely a bonus to it.
Yeah, it's definitely at least, you get something put itself, gain 2 cards. That'll be probably the more value you get out of it than a lot of other things. But Pylet, so why don't you bring us into Hunter and tell us what you think about it?
So for Hunter, we have another mask. We have the Devilsaur mask. Set at 8 mana, set a minion stats to 8/8 and give it charge. We have 8 mana, 7/7 beast, Ankleodon, Taunt, Death Rattle, Diamonds, summon 2 random 3-cross beasts. They attack random enemy minions. We have a 1 mana, 1/1 Raptor Nest Nurse, Battlecry, get a random 1-cost minion. Death Rattle, get a random 1-cost spell. So Devilsaur Mask is probably the one that sticks out the most because it says charge. It is 8 mana, which makes it a little bit more awkward, but it is an opportunity. If you've got something small that sticks, then that is 8 damage face. The Ankleodon is awkward and probably overcosted. I don't see where that fits currently. The Raptor Nestlers, obviously, they're aiming for the synergy with Neri, but I could also just see that as a solid 1-drop curve filler in some sort of aggressive deck, especially since we're lacking a lot of draw on Hunter right now. You kind of have to rely on tracking or a little bit of generation, things like Patchwork Pals that are giving you 3 cards to play. I think that could be a decent kind of filler there over something like, I know some of them are running like the Keychain, Scarab Keychain. If you're not needing that beast energy, I could see this swapping in instead.
I think Ankleodon is going to help make quests maybe a little bit better. I think it's a decent result off of it. It's expensive, no, but it comes off the.
Oh, okay.
It comes as a reward, not to push the quest forward, but as a reward. I think it's there. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, maybe another 7, a cheaper 7/7 or a cheaper 7 something that could have been for the quest, because that's kind of like the big sticking point.
Sorry to interrupt. It would fall under the requirement for the request, not the reward, because you have to play the odd beast and then you get the even attack beast.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking it was the cost of it. Obviously, Devilsaur makes Mage better. So that's just going to come off of Quest Mage, the Kings. So that's where that's going to see play more than I think in Hunter. It may be a nice little finisher in Hunter, but I think it's way too expensive. And it's going, if you're playing in a kind of aggressive deck, having the 8 mana card in your hand probably is not going to feel good. And I think Raptor Nest Nurse is just a solid 1/1. It's like the 1/1 that I think Hunter's been lacking for a long time. What are your thoughts, McBanter?
I don't love the Hunter cards. I don't think an 8 mana 7/7 is going to see much play, especially with a kind of a slow death. Raptor Nest has a lot of stuff on it. I'm just not really sure if it's what Hunter needs, especially for Discover Hunter, for example. You have better cards in your deck. You want to use the cards in your deck in general. Random 1-cost minions and spells don't really tend to be great, so maybe there's a place for it, but I don't think it's too strong. And then Mask, there's some funny potential meme combos with it, with Amalgam, which have been talked about in my Discord. I might try and do something with that just for fun. I don't think it'll be very competitive, but you can put it on Amalgam and then do stuff with Neri. You go Neri, Scout, Amalgam, make some 16/16s with charge. Sounds like fun, but I'm not too sure it'll be strong.
You could also put on Hydra too, right? That doubles its stats or whatever. Whenever it recycles.
Oh, the floppy Hydra?
Yeah, the floppy Hydra.
I don't know if that would work or not.
I think it takes the base stats now, because I think they changed it a while back. So it doesn't keep enchantments, I believe.
But putting it on Amalgam, I hope that Language Hacker's listening right now and his ears perked up, because I know he loves doing the Amalgam stuff. WorldEight, what are your thoughts here?
Well, the beast is just kind of forgettable. Kind of a waste of a slot. Even if it was 7 mana, I don't think it's great. I'd rather generally be doing something else. So I think it's kind of forgettable. I like the mask a little bit. I think it's just too tied into nostalgia, where the power level is actually off. But I think something that people forget is that we are running, small token generators in Beast Hunter. So something like the remote, you could take your fresh new token. It's 8/8 rush, but there are cards that are just kind of like strictly better, like Furious Fowls, that aren't being run. So it's fun. And best case scenario, dream scenario again is if you find something with Wind Fury. But I don't see this being hard run. I do see people playing the Nurse. Like it's just like a lot of value out of a 1-drop. But I don't know if what deck it goes in, right? Like Discover Hunter almost has a problem with too many cards sometimes, and you don't want like random junk in there. You'd rather just clear a keychain, juice up your alien encounters a tiny bit. But speaking of, like, I do see Mask as potentially going in with alien encounters. Like that's another good way to get a reasonable 0 cost minion out there, like a card that you would want to be running anyway. And Shaladrazil is like kind of questionable in Discover Hunter because it's like, again, too many cards in the deck. If you want to be running Elise or something like that, I could see Devil Sword Mask being like a one of in Discover Hunter if like you need to activate Elise and you're just like totally desperate for like an 8-drop, maybe. But that's kind of a stretch. But it's kind of a shame where we see another card being, they wanted to make a big dinosaur. Great. But you kind of wasted a slot on it.
It'll be fine off notes, right? You take it off of detailed notes, and you'll be happy to have that there. But I don't think you'll ever hard run it. Probably not. I mean, Sid will hard run it because he's Sid, and he'll try to find a way to make it work. But I don't think most sane people will do that. All right, let's move on to Mage. Pylet, what do we got for Mage here?
Mage, we have 4 cost Sheep Mask. Set a minion stats to 1/1. Give it Death Rattle. Deal 2 damage to all minions. We have Techiosaurus, a 7-mana 3/6 Taunt Mech Beast that costs 1 less for each card you played that didn't start in your deck. And we also have Tribute Dance. Choose a minion. Choose a different minion to transform it into, and that costs 5 mana. I don't know what to do with any of these cards. I don't see where they fit. I understand. I see where Techiosaurus fits in the Discover deck. I don't think we run it. Maybe we do, but I don't think we do at all. And the other 2, I don't know what to do with.
Well, Sheep's Mask, it gives you the ability to you can attack with something, transform it, and then ping it and clear a board. Or is it something to do with clearing minions? Or 6, sure. Or you could have something that you haven't attacked with yet running. I don't know. There's potential there to be an anti-aggro something, maybe. But Tribute Dance is not a friendly minion, it's a minion. So you could potentially steal something from somebody or with a Death Rattle, or just get rid of a starship. It's a transform effect. It's a little more expensive than you'd like to spend, but I think there's some potential there out of all of them. I think that Tribute Dance has the most potential to be somewhat impactful in some way. You'll definitely, especially when you're generating it in like the Quest Mage, it's going to have a lot of power there. So I think it's going to be better than I think people think it is right now. But that's just looking at it as we don't have a whole lot of transform effects right now. It's a transform effect, and that's going to help. That's why Shaman. But that's really what's kind of carrying Shaman right now, right? Is you still have Hex, and I don't think a lot of those decks. I don't think Nebula Shaman is as good if you don't have Hex in it. To take care of some of like the bigger things. WorldEight, what do you think?
Well, this is another mask that's almost too cute for its own good. It's like, okay, well, we wanted to make polymorph, but let's make it different. And I don't really see it seeing play. A hard run. The Techiosaurus, like maybe that was supposed to be Quest Mage support. Someone floated the idea that if you somehow generate a whole bunch of coins, right, through tourism, like this could actually be a pretty reasonable card. But the stats and the baseline costs are probably they just don't fit. It's like a lot of work to get this down to like 2-0, something like that. And Tribute Dance is one of my favorite cards in this whole mini set, except that the mana cost is way off. Right? Like, it's such a cool effect. And it's so interesting because you can use it offensively, you can use it defensively, you can basically give something Wind Fury. Right? Like, it reminds me of Chillin' Vol'jin, and like even more interesting, but like 5 mana is like infinite for this effect. So I might run it at 4, but these are all like got like some kind of like +1 mana cost tax that I don't know why. So I mean, and then I don't see them buffing Tribute Dance. Like, it is an interesting card. I could see maybe them buffing Techiosaurus, reducing the cost 1. But right now I don't see them being played, really, any of them.
McBanterFace, how excited are you for Mage right now?
Not very excited. Pretty much everything that's been said already. I like Tribute Dance the most in terms of the effect because it's just more unique than a lot of the other stuff that we have. I do think it's too expensive though to justify running in your deck. You know, there's stuff against like starships that sounds nice in theory, but costs 5 mana. So I'm not sure it'll be too great. Interesting thing about Techiosaurus, I think, is for 1 coins, and then also Chalice will discount it, which is just a generically pretty good card that you tend to run in Mage. So I think that one, like, maybe there's a way to make that work, you know, because I think you play Chalice and like coin generators in like a big spell mage type of deck. It does cost 7. It's a bit much. I think it's possible that maybe you can make it work with something like that. Play a couple coins, play a couple chalices, and plop down a 2 mana 3/6 with taunt. It's okay, but maybe not too great. And then the mask, I don't really love.
All right, let's move on to Rogue. We have one of our legendaries here, which is Mirrex, the Crystalline, which is a 3 mana 3/3. While this is in your hand, this is a 3/3 copy of the last minute your opponent played. You get a 2 mana 2/2 weapon, Crystal Tusk, Battlecry. Shuffle the leftmost card in your hand into your deck. Death Rattle, draw 2 cards, and consume Merchant. Battlecry, get a random mask from another class. Combo, it costs 2 less. That's a 3 mana 1/3. McBanterFace, are we bringing Quest Rogue? Is it going to see better than Whizbang play right now? We've already seen the Crystallines kind of effect before with some cards we never played. People probably don't remember the names of them, like I don't. Are we doing any Rogue things with Rogue?
Well, I think we're doing Rogue things. I don't think it involves any of these cards. I think we're playing the same Rogue deck, and it'll probably be pretty good. I mean, the probably the most interesting card is definitely Mirrex for me. A lot of people talking about that card. I think like one comparison could be like Vanessa Van Cleef. This is maybe better. I don't know. It's kind of a tough one to evaluate. There's some matchups where this could be really good. Like, let's say the Rogue Mirror, where somebody plays Farak. They play Scoundrel Farak, and then you have a 3 mana 3/3 Farak. I mean, that sounds pretty good. There's also I think people tend to be very optimistic with like this type of card, and they often will think about the best case scenario and not consider that probably 90% of the time I think this will be a 3 mana 3/3 with no valuable text at all. So I'm not really sure it's too strong of a card. It's definitely an interesting one though, and has some potential. Tusk, I don't like 2 mana 2/2 weapons. Okay, it's not great. It feels kind of weird because it shuffles only 1 card. You don't get any actual like card advantage off of it because you're like as opposed to quick pick, you are shuffling a card back in. So it just feels like a bad version of quick pick to me. Obviously, there's the shuffle synergy. I just don't think that's good enough, and I don't really care for Costume Merchant.
I think Costume Merchant would be better if you discovered a random mask and at least gave you the opportunity to maybe kind of narrow that pool down. But yeah, just getting the random one, I don't think it's going to do you much good. WorldEight, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of agree with everything being said. Mirrex is very specific to pretty much just like mirror matches or like a specific meta. So tough to evaluate, but probably not playable. Maybe I'll eat my words on that. I don't really like Tusk. It's just not enough to move the needle forward for Quest Rogue. Quest Rogue's got some other kind of like fundamental issues other than just another cheap activator. I think Costume Merchant is probably one of my cards that I was like, this is so close. Like 2 mana, like I could see it, or a Discover, I could see it, but it's just probably too much. But if we do see the mask cards, like we were saying, like the Crush Mask or something like that, it's probably going to be coming from a Costume Merchant, where even if you don't get what you want on the first try, like like there's always like you Shadow Step it and then you roll again, right? Maybe you're looking for something pretty good, but the deck, most of the deck isn't built around synergies with the masks, so just kind of random. Again, wish it was like two mana, something like that. And Tusk drew 3 cards. Even as like a 1/2, I would be a little bit more compelling. But I don't think it really changes Rogue at all. So yeah, a little bit of a shame. But yeah, it's usually I'm like waiting to see it, but I'm like I don't see it.
I think if Crystalline Tusk was when you attack, shuffle the leftmost card in your hand to your deck, it would be still a little more awkward, but it maybe would help the quest a little bit more. But I don't see it. Pylet, did you already give your thoughts on Rogue?
I didn't, but I do agree that 2 shuffles are better than 1 in that case. It is an upgrade to the quest because this is strictly better than the 1 drop that we play because we have to shuffle something in. But I don't think it moves the needle at all because that's a very low bar. As we've been talking, my opinion on Mirrex has gone up just because I didn't think of it slipped my mind of the battle cry situation, because there are, especially thinking right now, there are a decent number of battle cries that you'd be happy to get a 3 mana copy of. We talked about Fire Rack. If you're against something that's ramping and they play a Ysera and don't play another minion, that kind of catches you back up. A Shutter Block, something like that. There's some shenanigans that you can do with that. So I don't know if it'll be enough to see play, but I think it's something that if we are in a meta like what we are now, you could consider it as the 30th card.
I think that works if like you're planning for certain tournaments where you're thinking certain things are happening. I think it's a good tech card, maybe. But if you're just playing the random BS on ladder and you're playing against Quest Paladin and Protoss Priest and whatnot, I don't know how much this helps you. Maybe a 3 mana mothership or something like that, but at the same point, it's not synergizing with the things you do. It's one of those things where we always talk about, it's like the best cards to play are the 30 cards in your deck because they're there for a reason, and having another card that's not there really for a reason and you're playing something else doesn't feel maybe as, it's going to work out once in a while and you get the Fire back. Like they almost killed you're down to 1 health and you play their Fire back and you got them. It's going to feel really good. But it's like kind of like when you have a really bad round of golf and then you birdie the last hole. You're like, great. Yeah, no, I can't wait to play again, but you suck the rest of the day. So I don't know. I don't see this card being good. I think it's a bait card.
Yeah, but sometimes your opponent's 30 cards are better than yours. That's why we played Ashamain, and that was meta.
But should it be? I don't know.
Probably not.
All right. So moving on to Paladin. Pylet, why don't you start us off in Paladin and give us your thoughts?
Okay, for Paladin, we have an 8-cost Heroes Welcome. Discover a legendary minion to summon, set its stats to 10/10. We have a 2 mana, 3/2 Elemental Murloc Firegill Kindred. Give your other minions rush. And then we also have a 3-cost Hatching Ceremony. At the end of your next turn, give your minions +2/+2. Hatching Ceremony is a very interesting card with how it's very, very slow, but it at least gives you something to where you are able to set it up since it's the end of your next turn and not the start of your next turn, and your opponent just blows up your board. I think it's too slow. It's another one to where I think if this is 2 and you get to build that board on 3 and tell your opponent to deal with it, I think it works. But building that on turn 4 and going straight into a brawl or corpse explosion seems a lot less fun. Hero's Welcome is a pile of stats, and you hope that you get a good legendary to go with that pile. Firegill is a solid card with the dual class. It's definitely really easier to get that kindred because we already have a ton of Murlocs. And then, obviously you're not wanting to typically play this on 2, but it's a solid swing the board back later on, most likely.
Yeah, Firegill feels like it's going to be really good to help the end game of the Quest Paladin, which obviously we didn't want to see more of in the first place, but here we are. Hatching Ceremony, I think, has a lot of interesting potential. Like you said, it's like it's kind of an interesting way to do it because normally it's like, hey, at the start of your next turn, give these +2/+2, and all your opponent does is clear your board, and you're like, well, that was useless. This at least kind of gives you an opportunity to play it, and then maybe on turn 4 set something up. Even if you just run like the spell that heals you, draws a card, summons 3/1/1s or whatever, stuff like that. There's a lot of potential for that in Paladin. I like that. Hero's Welcome is a pile of crap more than a pile of stats, but again, it's a good card in Quest Mage. So, we have that to think about. McBanterFace, what are your thoughts on Paladin?
Yeah, I don't love the cards. First thing I thought of with Heroes Welcome was also Quest Mage. I'm sure we'll be seeing that a bit. Probably not much in Paladin. I do think Hatching Ceremony is a little too slow for the general thing that Paladin wants to do. I mean, it's kind of an interesting card. There's been like a similar card in the past, I think like 5 years ago or something. It's like Dunbalder Bridge, which was sort of like like the opposite of this, but the idea was like, you play that and then you build a board and you get the buffs off of it.
Yep.
That card wasn't good a long time ago. I'm not really sure this one will be much better. And then Firegill is kind of the, I guess it's a pretty natural fit in Murloc Paladin or Quest Paladin. Apart from that, I mean, there's no real use for it. So it's basically just if people think that deck is good, which will probably vary pretty widely depending on the rank. Probably pretty good at lower ranks and won't see any play at high ranks.
Any thoughts, WorldEight? Are you looking forward to making some token Paladin work here?
So I kind of agree. Heroes Welcome is just kind of like a mage card. So too bad, Uther. Firegill kind of shores up a pretty big weakness with Quest Paladin, which is like I just developed this big board full of stats, but then I'm dead to like a tempo play, like the tempo plays that my opponent's been doing while I've been playing like Tide Fins and garbage Murlocs up until this point. So I think we were all kind of like, Charred Chameleon for like Imbue Druid was like, this is going to be a game changer, and it made the deck stronger for sure. Nudged it up probably a tier, and that's probably what Firegill is going to do. It's going to make that deck like kind of unbearable at lower ranks, but I think it's also going to help a lot with like the matchups like Rogue, or specifically where you kind of get pushed off board, and that's how the Rogue wins, and then you can really swing it back. I think. Yeah, the card you were thinking of, McBanter, is the Dunbalder's Gate, which was back in Stormwind though, so that's a little bit of context. Like it was way too slow then, so it was 1 more mana, but the format was also way faster. I don't think Hatching Ceremony sees played now, but it's like when Flash Sale rotates, Flash Sale will rotate. This is kind of like what steps in to replace it, right? I'm gonna next turn dump a whole bunch of stats. I need them to stick before I do my Crusader aura. So I'll play this with like Storyteller, a whole bunch of different minion types, which I think also Firegill can help with. Like if you still have that like aggressive Paladin that's not Murloc Paladin, getting an Elemental or Murloc on board is not too unreasonable, especially for running stuff on like there's the 1/2 Elemental that give the Firefly, which gives us another one. Pretty easy to set this up, and that's another deck that once it's pushed off board, unless it specifically runs like Mother Duck or something, can have a hard time getting back the board. So Firegill, I think, definitely sees play. Hatching Ceremony, again, that's kind of like a next year when Flash Sale rotates. This is the card that will kind of step in and then Heroes Welcome is just a mage card.
I feel like Hatching Ceremony, if you're playing like that paladin, the arena paladin there, it just feels like on turn 3 you want to be playing those minions and not something to set up because you want to get out there as fast as you can and then get your Crusader Aura down with as wide a board as you can. This just feels like it's too slow for that.
Yes and no, because one of the things that happens with Paladin is that you put out your muster for battle, and then you've got all these 1/1s, but then your opponent clears them, right? Like so, and then you can't set up your flash sale, you can't set up your Crusader Aura. This kind of preempts that, saying, okay, well, the next wave is coming, but can you handle it, right? Like I'm going to dump 4 minions the next turn, and your Wisp, your muster, a whole bunch of 1/1s, and then I'm going to play the flash sale, then I'm going to play the Crusader Aura. So this compounds the buffs, and I'm always a big believer in cards that do the compounding. I don't know if it sees play right away, but I do see potential in it, more so than other people probably.
All right. Moving on to Priest, we have Behemoth's Mask, which is 7 mana spell, set a minion stats to 8/10 and give it lifesteal, force a random enemy minion to attack it. So basically a 7 mana Colossus. You get the 2 mana Ritual of Life, which is discover a 3-cost minion, summon a 2/2 copy of it. And then you have Altosaurus, which is the 8 mana 5/10 taunt, death rattle, summon a random taunt minion that costs 5 or more. McBanterFace, are you excited for Priest?
Maybe not personally, but I think that Behemoth Mask maybe has some potential. That's a lot of life swing if you can play it on a minion that's already on the board. And also, I mean, you could slap it on a Wisp maybe in some Elise deck and build your own kind of bad Behemoth, but like maybe these days that's not terrible. I mean, Behemoth was a pretty good card, and it's just like a big life swing, so kind of interesting there. Ritual of Life I don't love in general because like random minions don't tend to have great effects, so it's often just going to be like a 2 mana 2/2. Interesting thing about it is it does have the Holy Tag, which is maybe good for maybe a Quest Priest or just to activate Sunbloom with the draw, because there's not that many different good cheap-ish holy spells. So I think at 2 mana, maybe there's something there. I don't really know what to do with the Allosaurus. Not sure about that one. It's a lot of numbers, but I don't know, 8 mana. Not sure if there's a place for it in Priest.
Yeah, no, I don't see this in Priest. And Ritual of Life is at least interesting because you said holy, and maybe you get I don't know. I don't know what we're doing with this. I know Behemoth Mask is probably going to be one of those cards that is tilting when you're having a good game and they play that on a Wisp or the 1/1 or whatever. So I can see that. WorldEight, are you excited about Priest?
Well, I think Behemoth Mask is terrific flavor wise. I love the Colossals. That was not one of the Colossals I liked running into. But in terms of like the mask, I think it would be pretty cool. Where's my Hydrolodon mask? How about that one instead of the Crush mask? That'd be pretty good. But yeah, I mean, like Banter said, I didn't really consider it. It's basically like Reno, almost. Like it's so much lifesteal. It's 16 lifesteal. It's a lot. So not exactly Reno, but that's a big life swing. I really like Ritual Life personally. Mostly, yeah, it's an activator for Bloom. It's also an activator for the big Naga that goes down to 1. So you get this in a Nightshade Tea. And then as a card by itself, it's not that unreasonable. If you're building like a bird watching type deck where you want a really tight minion tutor pool, like this is good filler, right? So I definitely see like Ritual Life making having a place in the Altosaurus, just a big beast, and it's like you said, is a ton of numbers, and it's going to be really hard to punch through this thing. It's so much taunt, but I'm not sure what deck runs this and is terribly happy about it. So I personally see Ritual of Life seeing play, and Mask maybe seeing play, just because it's so much lifesteal.
Pylet, as the resident control piece player, What do you think?
Yeah, far from it. But I think that Mask is probably hands down the best of these three cards. I think that we're going to be yelling at Behemoth stuff again, like we were for 2 years when it was the Colossus. And then I also really like Ritual of Life. I don't know if it's good because I also know that I'm suckered into these cards very, very often, but I really like it as an option to where if you have a very specific set of minions you want to run for whatever reason, for tutors, for synergies, for death rattles, whatever you have, then you can use this to fill that out. And just based on playing a lot of Creature of Madness, there's a lot of flexibility in those threes, and I know that you're not getting the Dark Gift on them, but you're likely to at least find one that you're okay with playing, compared to something like Atlasaur, or Allosaurus, where you're getting a very random pool of taunts that cost 5 or more, that have a very wide range of good versus bad. And I don't think that sees play unless we're getting something to do with big beasts across multiple classes.
I don't know. So just thinking about it, you do have that card that you bring back the highest cost minion for both players. So having this come back maybe multiple times and have it summon something else, and potentially that something else has taunt and more stats or whatever. I don't know, like a beach whale or something like that. Maybe there's potential there. I don't know. I do know that I'm glad that Behemoth Mask costs 7 and not 8. Otherwise, it'd be another mage card that we'd really not want to see. But yeah, overall, I think this will be one of the more playable sets that we've seen so far. But I don't think all of them will be played. All right, so Shaman. Pylet, why don't you bring us into Shaman?
Shaman, we have a totem. We have Tor Totem, a 2-mana 0/4. At the end of your turn, get a random minion with multiple minion types. We have a 4-mana 3/4 Elemental Beast. Battlecry, deal 2 damage to 2 random enemy minions, kindred, and freeze them. And they also have Fire Breath, a 3-mana fire spell. Deal 4 damage, give your elementals +1/+1. I don't really have much interest in the first two. I know that it kind of gives some generic quest support. Maybe there's something else that we do with them, but I don't overly see it unless we're getting like a Totem Shaman back. Fire Breath, I think, is a solid card. I think it's something to where if we're running Cinders, then you're happy putting this in as another fire spell other than the 6-cost one, and you'd rather get the 6 cost off of the Kindred that gives the plus spell damage. But I think that this is a better alternative, and you're playing enough elementals. There's no restriction on where that 4 damage can go. I think that that's just a solid card overall. The other two, I don't really see them finding a place outside of Quest Shaman, and that hasn't found a place yet.
I don't know. Battlecry, deal 2 damage to 2 random enemy minions and freeze them. There might be something kind of like a aggro-ish kind of
Maybe
deck that might be useful. But Fire Breath maybe could even go into I don't know, Asteroid Shaman, because there's a couple elementals in there. I don't know. It could be fun. But no, I don't really see much with this outside of the quest. And I don't think anybody really is excited about playing elemental Shaman as it is. Although Fire Breath would find its way into the quest as well, given that you have a lot of amalgams and stuff. McBanterFace, how excited are you for Shaman?
Not very excited. Man, this Shaman's had a rough set for sure, and I'm not really sure this is going to help that much. The quest has a lot of issues, I think, beyond just card quality. I don't think that these cards are super high quality anyway. I don't know the exact pool for random minions with multiple types, but it is a 2-mana 0/4, which is not super great. Sure, it's a totem, but I'm not a big believer in Quest Shaman as an idea in general. Fire Breath's probably the most interesting one. I think the time I'll see it the most often is off of Farak hitting me in the face, which I'm maybe not too excited for, but maybe there's something there with some sort of Cinder deck or some tribal elemental shaman, but I don't know if this is enough to make any of these cards really fit into like a shaman deck. Shaman's doing okay with like Nebula Shaman. At least that came out when Shaman was looking a little dead before that. But I don't know if these will really help make a whole new archetype work.
Probably not, but I love Cinder Shaman. I really want that deck to work, so don't give me hope that Fire Breath might help with that, because then I'm going to play it to a 38% win rate and wonder why I'm not climbing. WorldEight, tell me why Chill Spine Stegodon is the best card in the set, or whatever you think.
I like Stegodon. I think it's getting too much hate, man. I don't like the totem, but I love Fire Breath, right? It's doing so much that I like to do. It's giving me board buffs. It does damage. You could send his face at the end of the game. Like 4 damage plus, and you have like maybe like 3 elementals or something. That's plus 7. It's 7 damage for 3 mana. It's a lot. It's a lot going on for this card. Especially like buffing all those 2/1 cinders to like 3/2s. And you could just kind of run like the elemental deck doesn't have to be all just single tribal elementals. It could be like the Stegodons, and there's the 2 mana Murloc elemental and stuff like that. You run that with like, again, some kind of menagerie stuff, and you can get a pretty big board. And there's also like the Void Touched elemental card, right? Like that's all pretty cool. So maybe it'll tip it over the edge. I'm excited for Fire Breath out of all of them. Especially it's like another card for Volcanic Thresher that's very reasonable. So you play that and the Lava Surge, and you can play Living Flame. Like you can play 8 cards right there. They're all very reasonable. But again, going back to the Stegodon, I don't think it's that bad, because this is it's 4 damage battle cry. It's not bad. And the freeze means that if it's the 2 damage, if it kills some small minions, great. If it freezes big minions, also great. Like this is an annoying card. And it's got 2 tribal tags. The beast tag in particular is kind of hard to find good stuff on. And this leads right into your dragon. Your dragon gets a little bit more defensive, so that the cinders can go pew pew, more likely to hit face. And if you are playing quest shaman for whatever reason, the 2 damage is relevant because you could roll poison off of adapt, and so this gets a lot better, right? Like if this has poison or something like that. So I really like Fire Breath. I think Stegodon has potential. And then the pool for Tor Totem's too big, and we've already got like 2 reasonable totems that nobody cares about right now for that deck. So I don't know. I like it mostly because I really like Fire Breath.
I don't hate the totem in the quest just because you want to play a totem, obviously, and it gives you whatever kind of fuel you might need if like you have if you've whiffed on some draw. So I think it could potentially see some power in Quest Shaman. I just don't think that Quest Shaman is still there yet. And I kind of don't want it to be, because those animations are so slow whenever like they play a minion and it takes like 10 minutes for the adapts to all happen. They need to speed that up. Then maybe it won't be so bad. But yeah, no. So in the home stretch here, we got Warlock, whose the quest is done really well right now. We have a 6 mana 2/2 Possessed Animuser, which is Death Rattle. Summon a random beast from your deck. Give it lifesteal. Yes, I said beast, and yes, I said Warlock. You have the 8 mana 6/10 Asphyxiodon, which is a beast, a demon beast with taunt at the end of your turn. Deal 5 damage to a random enemy minion. And then you have the Bat Mask. And no, it is not Batman, but it is an set of friendly minion stats to 1/1. Fill your boards with a copy of it. So yeah, there's something going on there. I remember the minion that we're masking right now was like the worst minion of all time. And anytime you randomly generated it off of some mage spell that created something like that, it was like the biggest whiff in the history of Hearthstone. McBanterFace, what are we doing with Warlock?
Playing the quest. Ignoring all these cards, probably. I don't actually understand what's going on with Warlock, like thematically with these cards. It's a little weird to me. I haven't looked at them that carefully, but like I'm just confused as to what's going on. Batmask is kind of funny. That there's like maybe some funny stuff you can do with like Ysera and then setting up a whole board of blank. It might be starship pieces. You can do it on crystal for 13 mana, make a board of crystals, kill your opponent with Exodar. I don't think that's better than what we have now anyway, but that is an idea I saw floated. As far as the other stuff, I don't really know what's going on with them. I don't know where this stuff came from in terms of like the Warlock set, but I don't really foresee these seeing a lot of play.
What do you cooking up, WorldEight? Anything good?
Yeah, I mean, Batmask is could be a really powerful card. If at turn infinity, it's a very powerful effect. The Dino, another just big dumb Dino that has a really powerful effect at 8. So it's just the format is slowish, but it's not that slow. As far as the Animancer, I always recruit cards are strong. I never underestimate recruit cards. One of the ideas that I was floating earlier today is if you play with like Meadow Strider or something like that, that's a pretty big butt. Especially with the lifesteal, and then if you already drew your Meadow Strider, you just get the next one. And then you play this with Umbra, and all of a sudden you've got a board full of big dumb beasts. So I think, it's mostly I'm just interested in it because it has the recruit mechanic on it. So you could do this with like Eat the Imp, you could do this with Conflagrate. Pretty easy to kill your own thing. So yeah, I don't know. Batmask is probably one of those like meme cards that if it's good, it's stupid. But I think they made the Dino to go with Animancer, but I don't think that's a great fit. I'd rather be doing other interesting things with Animancer than that. But yeah, I don't see a direct place for these cards today. Another one of those sets where everything seems a little too slow.
Pylet, you excited for Batmask?
No, not really. Yeah, I agree with a lot with what they said. It is also nice for Animancer that it's targeted recruit, very targeted recruit with it being a beast from your deck. And also with, Asphyxiodon being the dual tribe of demon beasts, it kind of gives you potentially some options because we do typically have some big demon support. Now we also have a beast to where, we find some mix between those. Maybe I just don't understand why Warlock is doing beast things with these cards. Seems very out of left field. So we'll see what happens.
Well, because we're back to Ungoro and there were beasts in Ungoro, so that's the whole. Yeah, I guess. All right. So Warrior does have dragons, and we now have an 8-mana 5/12, the Great Dracorax. Is a legendary minion with Rush. After this attacks all enemy minions. After this attacks an enemy minion, it deals damage to all other enemy minions. You have a 3-mana 4/3 Barricade Basher, which is a beast. Whenever you gain armor, gain +2/+2 and attack a random enemy minion. And Guard Duty is a 7-mana spell that summons a random 6/4 and 2 cost minion. I think Barricade Basher is very interesting. I think there's a lot of potential there to kind of shore up a deck that shore up maybe like a quest warrior or a control warrior against aggro early on. I think there's a lot of power there. I don't know what we're doing with the Great Dracorax. I mean, it's probably pretty good in a Dragon Druid, especially if you can kind of keep resummoning it with the eggs and whatnot. So I think there's power there too. And Guard Duty seems a little expensive for what you're getting, but I don't know what the pool is for 6/4 and 2 cost taunt minions. I know that the one minion you want to have taunt is that Dragon Turtle that doesn't have taunt because it makes no sense because all our turtles had taunt. And if that was in the pool, then maybe. But I don't really know what we're doing here. It feels like we're kind of all over the place. WorldEight, how excited are you for Warrior?
I think Warrior, these Enrage cards look great. I think Guard Duty is a really solid card. It's a lot of value for. I mean, you're getting 12 value for 7 mana. And from what I understand, the taunt pool for 6 is really, really good. In particular. And Draconics is just super powerful. I mean, 5 damage, or it's a flame strike, right? Like on a stick, and it does it every turn. And you have a body with it. You can chemical spill this out. You all you can eat to find it. Even if you have to pay 8 mana, like Guard Duty into like the dragon here, like you're never like the opponent's never getting back the board, especially because you can succumb to madness. This I also the clutch, the 2 mana location that makes dragon eggs is super powerful. Like very few people have tried that. It is incredibly powerful, especially if you can consistently get this card. You always have these 0/2 eggs. It's a crazy card. So I'm not looking forward to like the control decks that I can see happening here, which run like 1 Guard Duty, 1 Draconics, and they just every game they're just building this wall and you never punch through it. The Basher I think is actually kind of an interesting card because I think you could build like this like dragon like Basher deck. I'm not sure what the vision looks like yet, but there's just like a ton of ways to like accidentally gain armor in Warrior right now, that this is one way to leverage that. And there's no cap on it, right? Like you could just keep doing armor things over and over on your turn and really buff this up. So like Tiny Knight of Evil type of stuff. And it's very kind of fragile, 4/3. But if we can get it to stick, it can get pretty crazy. So that's the card that I'm more interested in. But I think just some kind of like control dragon deck has like for Warrior has a pretty reasonable position that it could take.
I mean, if you have safety goggles, that's a 3 mana 6/5. So I mean that seems fairly solid. Pylet, are you excited for any of these Warrior cards?
Yeah, I think that this is the class set that I like the most. Basher, I highly doubt that we get an Armor Smith-like effect with this in Standard, but if we ever do other than Tortola, then that's crazy if we have that in a Whirlwind, just clearing the board and making this even bigger. I don't think we get something like that, but we can dream, or not dream, depending on what side of the fence you're on for that. Guard Duty, I think, is solid enough to see play. Reminds me a lot of the Paladin. I think it's Immortalized in Stone that summoned set taunts of the cost. And as long as that saw a decent amount of play in some of the slower Paladin decks, if the 6, 4, and 2 cost taunts are comparable to that, then I could see this seeing play as well. And they would have potential upsides with them. And then Dracorax is, to me, straight up the strongest card in the set. It's not only a Flame Strike, it is a buffable Flame Strike. It says, it damages all other minions. If you are buff this in some ways, then that's adding on to the damage that you're doing, and that just snowballs so quickly, and they'll never get bored back.
I'm glad Dracorax does not say all enemies, and it just focuses on minions. So McBanterFace, which Warrior deck are you planning on bringing to Worlds?
Yeah, we'll have to see for that. I do think that Warrior probably got the best overall card quality from the mini set, which is maybe not saying that much, but I think a couple of these cards are pretty solid. I don't know how many great like sources of armor gain there are in Standard for Basher. I don't think it's like a terrible card by itself, but I think you need enough ways to gain armor reasonably, and apart from like goggles on the turn that you play it, I don't know if it's going to have enough to make it work consistently. But I do like the other two. I mean, for 7 mana, getting a random 6, 4, and 2 taunt. I haven't looked at the pools specifically, so I don't know exactly what we're looking at, but apparently the 6 cost pool is good. And I mean, really, if the 6 pool is good alone, then that probably makes it just about worth it. I think we're playing Marin for the 7 slot in Elise decks right now for Warrior, I believe, like in Quest Warrior. I don't think there's another 7, in which case you might just play this instead. I mean, this is obviously way better defensively. not quite as much value in terms of drawing through your deck or whatever, but I think that's a deck that often just wants to survive, and this definitely helps you do that. And then I don't know if I'm quite as high on Dracorex, but I think it's a pretty good card. I don't know if it's like super, super crazy for me, but it is a pretty big body, and generally 5 attack will clear most, if not all, of your opponent's board. So yeah, there's definitely some decks where you see this played and you're probably going to be conceding because it's like, yeah, it cleared my board. I don't have a way to answer it. You can't really come back from that. And then other times it'll maybe not be super useful against anything that isn't super reliant on going like wide on board. It might be a little expensive, but I think as far as the card goes, this and then also Guard Duty, definitely some of the better cards in the mini set.
All right, let's wrap it up with the neutrals. We have the Egg of Kelos, which is a 3-mana 0/3 Death Rattle. Summon a slightly cracked egg. Break 5 times to hash this into a 20/20 beast. Yes, I said you have to break this 5 times. I did not stutter. I did not misspeak. We have the Beast Speaker Taka, which is a 7-mana 2/2. I said that right, a 7-mana 2/2. Battlecry, discover a legendary beast from any class to give it its stats. Death Rattle, summon it. And then we have Creator Experiment, which is a 5-mana 3/4 amalgam. Kindred, summon a copy of this. You have the Holy Eggbreaker, which is a 2-mana 1/2 Battlecry, draw a 0 attack minion. So we can get our Lore Walker Shows out earlier. And then we have a 3-mana 3/2 Herbivore Assistant. Battlecry, give a friendly beast +2/+2 and rush. So we've seen kind of beasts all over the place and whatnot. WorldEight, what do you think? Any is good?
I don't like the egg. Maybe we'll see play with something like Corpse Explosion. But the 2020 beast doesn't have any relevant keywords on it, even though it's really, really big and maybe only needs to connect once. It's really hard to crack the hick rate, and that's a purpose. Taka is kind of just like another stat dump, without really any synergy. So I don't know if it's really gonna be if it's supposed to be like the top end. Are we supposed to be playing like this as our 7 into these big dump dinos into 8s and just be doing some kind of Nathria Hunter thing where we just curve into really strong late game? I'm not sure. The experiment does have the text summon a copy, which is usually pretty strong. But it doesn't I play a whole bunch of hand buff decks, right? So hand buff Death Knight could potentially use this card, but it doesn't have any relevant keywords again. And they just cost too much. The Eggbearer is probably what I think has the most potential to see play, just because it's tutor, right? 2-mana tutor will see play. Hunter specifically, like Mystery Egg, something like that. You could definitely build around now, right? If you had a Mystery Egg deck before, you kind of you had to find it somehow. But this will tutor it. The Assistant, I wish this was 2 mana. I mean, that's just kind of the straight up. I would play this if it was a 2-mana 2/2. There's a whole bunch of decks that this would help with. That Dinosaur, the Sigil of Dinos, what I call on Druid, that. This would be great. This does curve after that, but just 3 mana is a pretty high price to pay. So I think we'll see the Eggbearer in some pretty niche decks, but that's probably it.
Pylet, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I think Eggbreaker is the only one that potentially sees play just because it's a very specific tutor with 0 attack minion. The others, the egg is way too slow and doesn't do enough. Taka is way too hit and miss and slow. And then the other two, I think that they're overcosted or don't do enough, or I don't see where they fit. Which maybe that's kind of okay for some neutrals. I'm kind of tired of seeing the same neutrals in so many decks, so maybe that's okay personally, but none of these cards are super exciting.
Yeah, I think it's definitely good that we're not going to see any of these cards in every 40% of decks. At least that's not what it's looking like. I mean, there's some potential there for Creator Experiment to find its way into a few different things. I want to play Beast Speaker Taka after a shutter block, and I think that could be fun. But I don't think it's going to be good. I just think it's going to be memey. And yeah, that's kind of it. McBanterFace, you doing anything with these neutrals at all?
Nope, not for me. I don't understand what's going on with this egg. I don't know how it's a card like in this state. It's so weird to me. Like the amount of time and resources and effort you have to put into this 0/3 to get a minion that's going to die to your opponent's prep dubious purchase is kind of brutal. So I don't think we'll ever be seeing that card. Maybe some meme decks or something. I've heard some people believe that maybe there's something for like DK. I really don't see it. It's just a 2020. It doesn't do anything. Way too slow. Yeah, I don't know. Most of these cards are just I can't imagine that I'll be seeing them much. Maybe Egg Bear if there's a deck that works properly with egg stuff. You can tutor the Druid one. I might be a little too slow to do that for 2 mana anyway, but maybe something with Mystery Egg you can build around. Could see that being the case, but overall, just not a good set of neutrals.
And if you play the Resuscitate after playing the Egg of Kalos died, you can get another one of those with Reborn. And then you can have a bunch of ones that have to be cracked 5 times.
Exciting.
All right. So overall, I know there hasn't been a lot of excitement about the set because we're coming off of a really kind of rough set in general, and the mini set has not been super exciting, even if there are a few cards we like to play. McBanterFace, what are your thoughts overall on the set?
Not great. Definitely, I think I was maybe expecting something a little more exciting, some more higher power level cards, just given that the latest patch was kind of, a little bare bones. It wouldn't really get a ton of changes. So maybe there would be more like quest support or just stronger cards in general. So I think it'll maybe not have a massive effect on the meta. Might take another patch or two before 95% of the stuff sees any play.
WorldEight, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. So even when I'm like kind of optimistic about all these things, there still are some like, you must be this tall to ride the ride, right? Like, can you keep up with a 6 or, a turn 6 Fire Rack? I'm not seeing it. Can you keep up with like a Quest Warlock, that finished its quest on 5 or, again, not seeing it a lot here, or like starships that launch with like 3 10/10s on turn 8s. Like none of these cards are comparable to that. In general, like across the board, everything feels like it cost 1 mana too much. Like they were being really hesitant. Like I was just mentioning the assistant and things like that. It's like you could reduce the cost by 1 and they're still not like gonna break the game. So a little frustrating there. Like Banter was saying, like they had a really good window leading up into this to say, okay, well, we're going to tune down Fire Rack. Maybe we'll make it like do 16 mana fire spells or something like that. And they knew all that and they chose not to do anything. And I don't see really any of these cards making a huge splash other than probably the Paladin Quest card right away. I'll be trying things with the Druid card. I'll be trying things with Shaman, but it's unlikely for it to be at the same power level in general. These all seem, again, like after rotation, what does that look like going into 2026? But that doesn't excite me in particular. Got a long time before that. So we'll make some effort to make it work, and probably just see a whole bunch more quest Paladin for a bit.
And that's the sentiment that a lot of people have said is maybe we'll see these cards after the rotation. But when we have a rotation, I want to be playing with the cards that are released that rotation, not like the cards that we forgot about from like 6 months ago. We've said multiple times that Hearthstone needs a win right now, and this isn't it. This is not great. There's nothing really here to get excited about. There's nothing that really is transformative. There's nothing here that's going to really push people to be excited to play the game if they're not already currently excited to play the game. I just don't see it. I mean, I'm still gonna play. I'm still gonna have fun. We're gonna try to figure some stuff out. But I'm kind of the weirdo to the norm that people are just gonna see these and be like, "This is what we get right now." I'm just not. I'm just not having it, and they're gonna go. I would say they're gonna go play Snap, but I don't think people are playing Snap anymore either because no one can afford to play that game anymore. But I don't know. Maybe we'll play some new card games that are out there that we've heard about recently. I don't know. Pylet,
Yeah.
how you feeling about this set?
Yeah, I'm in a very similar boat. There's quite a few cards I think I could get excited about if we didn't have to worry about, Death Knights and Warriors and Warlocks and whatever else gaining, 25 armor in the first 5 turns, or, turn 6 5 racks and things like that, just because they don't compete. Like the Shaman cards are probably what excite me most to look into building, and little cinders doing 2 damage worth of pings here and there don't do anything against all the armor that we're seeing in the meta right now. So we'll see. I somewhat understand, the hesitancy after some other pre-mini set, balance patches of, we have this broken thing and now we have 4 weeks until we have a good chance to fix it. But I was hopeful that then this would be more impactful for that. So I guess we're kind of waiting for that and see where things shape up. But we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong on some of that, and hopefully I'm as wrong as I was with all the Zerg cards when those came out.
You were very wrong about that. Well, we have one question for everybody. Now, we've asked you guys both this question before, but since we're now doing a visual format as well, we might have some new people that have never met you before. We're going to ask the traditional question. McBanterFace, what is your favorite dessert?
I don't even remember what I would have answered last time. I mean, I kind of have a few. I think in general, as I've gotten older, I just eat less dessert, which is a shame because I love dessert, but I never have enough room to eat dessert after dinner anymore. But these days when I do, I mean, tiramisu, cheesecake, ice cream, I don't know, take your pick. Those are up there for me.
Tiramisu is the correct answer, and it's not key lime pie. WorldEight, what is your favorite dessert?
Well, I just don't understand why people put slices of cheese on cake. Never will. But I still am a sucker for ice cream, especially like Moose Tracks, things with like a vanilla base that have like, something mixed in there. Probably still my favorite desserts. Somewhat a long time ago, someone was like, "Hey, just take vanilla ice cream, put some honeycomb on it." That is an excellent dessert, by the way. If you're looking for something different to try, I would recommend it.
I do like the current dessert meta. Pylet, what's your favorite dessert since we haven't asked you in a long, long time?
I think my typical go-to is brownies, but I will definitely always go for a good cheesecake.
I'm not allowed to have the brownies anymore because I work for the government, but I think my favorite is tiramisu. I really enjoy that. That is the go-to. I'm a big ice cream fan too, and brownies. I used to work at a place that sold hot, fresh cookies. Cookies are great. I love dessert, but right now, currently, I'm cutting out a lot of sugar and I'm fasting. So as long as I'm losing weight, there will be less dessert, and I'm okay with that. If you'd like to support the show, you can by joining our Patreon over at patreon.com/breadandbutterhs. That's N, not and. You get the raw audio early. You get access to a members channel on Discord. You can help shape future questions. If you had questions that you wish you would have asked WorldEight or McBanterFace tonight, you could have told us about them if you were in the Discord, and we would have asked them probably. If you want to help us in a non-financial way, you can let people know about the show and let us know how we're going. Right now, we have actually introduced a bit more cost into the show. We have this nice little setup that allows us to stream with the guests that we have and produce some content and have video content. We've just started doing VODs for this will be the 3rd week, and I'm very excited. It's gone very well, and I just like, instead of asking our guests to say, "Hey, can you download Audacity and can you record in the background?" and "Oh, hey, something didn't go right," and "Oh no," this is just like, here's a link, come join us. We have a show. It's great. I love it. McBanterFace, where can people find you on social media?
Just my name, at McBanterFace. I pretty much only use Twitter sporadically these days. I mostly just stream on Twitch. That's my main platform. Twitch.tv/McBanterFace.
And if you want to learn how to get better at Hearthstone after you listen to the Bread and Butter podcast, I highly recommend you go check out McBanterFace podcast channel on Twitch. Just go check him out. You'll learn a lot. WorldEight, where can people find you on the social media?
You can find me mostly on Discord, WorldEight, all letters, no numbers. But I also will splash around on Twitch, probably every other week or something like that. WorldEight_HS. And then I will still put a few things out on Twitter, here and there. Not nearly as much anymore. But, if you want to hear more of me, you can always check out the Vicious Syndicate podcast, and you'll hear a lot of me there.
How about yourself, Pylet?
You can find me on Twitter, Pylet712, that's Pylet, and you can also find me on Discord at the same handle.
When I want to talk to, so I have these long drives, these 2-hour drives, and when I want to talk to Pylet and I'm driving and I have to say, hey, text Pylet, and Siri has no idea what I'm talking about, so I have to go text Pylet, and then it figures it out. You can follow me on Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere at Tito Santana HS. After the recording tonight, we're going to have WorldEight and McBanterFace go over a couple of their games from the tournament this week and, do a little game review. We talk about doing your replays, so it'll be interesting to kind of just talk about the matches that they had. So that'll be on my YouTube at Tito Santana HS. So make sure you go subscribe and check it out. We appreciate you. Pylet, do you have anything you'd like to shout out or promote this week?
I think the only kind of shout out or promotion that I have is a book I've been reading. It's focused on leadership and stuff in music education, but it definitely translates across multiple things. It's called Upbeat by Matthew Arau, Arau. Talks about kind of mindsets and mindfulness and things like that, making sure that you're getting started the right way and thinking positively. And it's been a really good read so far.
I knew I forgot to mention something in my I've started listening to the book Project Hail Mary by Anthony Weir, and that is extremely entertaining. I guess he also wrote The Martian, and I've never watched or listened to that, but I'm doing this for a book club at work, and I'm glad I have. I recommend the audiobook because the reader, the presenter, is awesome and does a really good job of telling the story, and that's like half of it for me. So highly recommend. But McBanterFace, do you have anything you'd like to promote or shout out this week?
Not really much I can think of. I mean, the Master Tour will be September 12th to 14th. Be streamed on Twitch and YouTube on the official channels. I always like to try and bring some attention to that these days because obviously we don't get like a ton of promotion. I think they're trying to do a bit more this year with the kind of the new system and all that. But yeah, I think these events tend to be pretty cool if you're into competitive Hearthstone at all. So yeah, check that out.
If you're listening to this podcast, you probably are at least somewhat slightly adjacently interested in competitive Hearthstone. WorldEight, do you have anything you'd like to shout out or promote this week?
Shout out to McBanterFace for doing a clean sweep of the, qualifiers. Obviously a little frustrating with the change in the system, but hey, did it anyway. It's going to keep promoting Vicious Syndicate podcast. If anyone hasn't heard of it, that's kind of my obligation to promote at this point. We did a long recording today. If you want to hear even more of my thoughts on the mini sets, that's pretty much it for me.
And also, congratulations to the Vicious Syndicate report that just had their 200th episode. Today was released, and very good listen. Zacho is great. WorldEight's great. Hat's great. Everybody's Corbett, Squash. It's been a great journey. So thank you, everybody there. I also want to shout out to Dr. 3 because technically that was our first live stream because we had a podcast where we had a we had a contest. I believe it was Smarms versus Doc McButt as a precursor to doing the fight nights that we were having. So we also had kind of a commingled co-stream with them afterwards, which was streamed. So technically that was our first before this. But I also want to shout out to Hat, who got a job. And you know, like we have to retire all the bring back Hat stuff because he's not coming back. I don't blame him. But anyway, guys, I think we're toast. We'll see ya.
See ya.
All right. See ya.
And I get to play this.
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.